My name is Howard Knight. I'm a retired managing director from an international company, and I'm fortunate enough to be married to a very charming Cape Breton lady from the Stubbart family. She's very... Right, leaving that aside, we are looking at the moment, because of my retirement status, of buying property here in Cape Breton, because it is the one place in the world that makes me cry out of enjoyment of the scenery, the friendliness of the people, the wonder of the music, etc. These are not banal things, these are key selling points for this place. I miss completely, in all of the discussion, any kind of economic study. We're talking about how deep is the coal and how this and how much sulfur. This, to me, as a business person, completely misses the point. There should have been a proper economic study comparing the benefits and costs of tourism, the benefits and costs of agriculture, the benefits and costs of fishing, and the benefits and costs of digging highly pollutant fuel source out of the ground and ruining the top surface so that you can't build houses on it, you can't farm on it, you can't attract tourists because it looks like a dog's breakfast. I don't see any of these macroeconomic figures in anything at all. In fact, it comes down to the point we talk about doing a good job. There are all these details, but I asked outside, how many acres does the Boularderie resource block represent? And the gentleman I asked couldn't give me an answer. Now, I've only been here a few days, and I picked up one or two of the figures, and I reckon, these are just back of the envelope figures, it only requires a 1% move in the tourism turnover to completely wipe out the need for any of these, the revenue that the Nova Scotian government might get from this coal. And remember, that's the Nova Scotian government. That doesn't mean to say a cent actually comes through to this end. The second thing is that if you take my estimates of what the revenue would be to the Nova Scotian taxpayer, and then you compare that to the per acre, to the tax revenue, this is before you start talking about tourist dollars, before you start talking about school tax dollars, before you talk about going into Sobeys and spending money dollars, represents at the very best a payback period of something like 12 months. In other words, within 12 months, the loss of taxation has outweighed the revenue from to the taxpayer of the coal you dig out. At worst, it's probably about 3 days. Now, if anybody came to me with a proposition saying, well, we'd really like to take this absolute jewel in the crown, and I have travelled and worked internationally throughout the whole of the world. I have never seen anywhere in the world that has brought tears to my eyes the way Cape Breton has. Now, if one of my managers, one of my directors were to come to me and say, I've got this wonderful investment opportunity, we're going to dig all this crap out of the ground, we're going to pollute the atmosphere, we're going to go completely against all the words that the Prime Minister of Canada has said at the G8 conference about sustaining the strategy to improve the environment and to avoid global warming, of which this makes an absolute lie, it makes a farce of the whole thing. I would say, do you want to get fired or do you want to resign? Because it's crazy. I'm not talking politics. I'm not asking you for an answer. This is not the question.
I know, I'm just saying.
I'm saying that on all economic bases that I can see, this is absolute lunacy. You have a jewel here. People in Europe, hardly anybody knows about Cape Breton Island. If you put in proper facilities at Sydney Airport to bring people in, instead of making them have to drive this incredibly long journey that you drive on the way back this evening, this place would be awash with tourists. Now, maybe that's a different problem, but economically, that is going to make you much, much more money than digging this coal up. And we at the moment are taking an investment decision. Do we come and buy a property here, or do we go and buy a property, and I hate to say this to you, but in Quebec? Now, this is an investment decision one makes. There are a lot of people who are going to make that sort of investment decision, or they just won't bother to come, because there are a lot of places in the world where you can buy property for the same sort of prices, or maybe a bit higher, and you don't have to look over the scarring that this kind of strip mining is given.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.